are so much louder?
It's good, huh?
Ah, changes when you hold it on the top of the glass.
Oh, really?
Listen to that. That's high pitched.
Ooh.
Way better like this. Bum, bum.
Very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. Woo! You know, maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just a...
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once.
Welcome back to Burning Boat Business. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
We should record these on Fridays.
Yeah, sure.
Something like the end of the week. Feels like...
Feels good.
I don't know. I think I'm maybe just in a good mood because we just finished a big-ish project that has been kind of mentally consuming for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, you've been working on a lot.
But it also feels like at the end of the week, it's like a fun thing to end on.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. We're going to go climbing.
Yep.
We're going to go probably not jump in the ocean.
Yeah. So every time we've been climbing recently, we've been climbing outside. And then afterwards, we've been jumping in the water.
Yeah, because it's been really hot.
And last time you tried to do a gainer.
Yeah.
You going to try again?
Yeah. Didn't go so well. Although it went well, I only did half of it.
I was going to say, what do you mean by it went well?
Well, it's better than a quarter or 3/4. There's no flopping.
I guess.
I basically did a beautiful 180 backwards dive.
I'm just impressed that you actually went for it.
Yeah.
I didn't think you would.
No?
I'm not going to lie. I thought you were doing that thing where like, because first we were going to do a handstand. We were standing on this platform.
Yeah.
So it's like, what, like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 meters up?
Yeah, like, 4 or 5 meters.
No, it's not that.
Yeah. No,
And we were going to do this like handstand right on the edge and then kind of flip ourselves over and into the water. And I was saying that made me quite nervous. And you were like, no, that sounds easy. Like, I'll do it too.
Yeah.
And then you realize that there is actually something kind of scary about that.
Well, it's
feeling.
very scary to do it on the ground.
Yeah.
Because on the ground, it's not the same as doing it off the ledge. Because the physics of going off the ledge, it's a lot easier to push yourself off.
If your hand is physically gripped on the edge.
Or if you're already leaning off and then you have a lot of time to at some point push away from the wall, right?
I guess.
On the ground, you kind of think that you need to be able to do a handstand and then basically like pop out of it so that you don't kind of continue spinning and hitting the ledge or something,
But we only found that out once we actually
No, it was very scary until we did it. Yeah,
but I thought you were doing the same thing with the gainer, being like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. That sounds like I think I can think about it enough and then just do it. And I was like, there's no way. You're going to get there and you're going to stand there and you're going to imagine doing it and you're not going to do it.
The first time I did it,
it was impressive.
Yeah.
Even though you landed on your face.
Well, it's something very hard to visualize for some reason.
It's
because you're saying,
like,
okay, I'm going to run and then I'm going to lean backwards and jump. And then you start getting in your head that you're going to forget to jump or something. And you're just going to like collapse backwards and just smack your head against it's kind of a very awkward two things at the same time.
I was like that one climb that I have yet to be able to do on the outdoor climbing wall that you did last time.
Yeah.
It's like to do it, at least for me to do it, I have to like do 4 things at the same time kind of, and it's hard to remember all of them at once. Then one time I just
funny when you
forgot to put my foot on the hold and just like face planted
twice. Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
What have we done?
I've got fucking nothing. This has been a really weird week for me for some reason. Weird week. Not weird and bad or anything. I just feel like I haven't done that much besides getting back into work.
We're in a unique position because you're going on a little bit of a waltz.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to prep for that.
Yeah.
Because there's some videos that need editing while you're gone.
Yeah.
There's certain graphics that
need that magical Taylor touch.
I don't want to have to try and figure out what you do.
Yeah.
So you've been kind of editing little bits and pieces from multiple different videos while I've been working on this one music festival video that we shot like 2 months ago.
That turned out really good.
Oh, thank you. But surprisingly difficult, I thought. I don't know. I think this is kind of an interesting talking point because I feel like we've done enough projects now that we feel like we know kind of what we're getting ourselves into.
Kind of.
before we shoot it. We kind of know what'll work.
Yeah.
At least like basically like what the basic structure of a good video will be for the specific thing we're doing. But with this one, there's so many variables that I hadn't really accounted for. First of all, we've done one music video.
Yeah.
But it was without lyrics. As in the music video we did, the person in the video wasn't singing along to his own song.
Yeah.
So that actually is surprisingly difficult because suddenly every time we filmed 6 bands basically played a festival.
Yeah.
And they asked us to cut together a video showing that.
Right. And we weren't contracted to shoot their live performance.
No.
We were simply contracted to make a
single
video that incorporated some of the live performance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which sounds fine.
Yeah.
And it is. But the issue is then when we're shooting, we're trying to get good shots.
Right.
We're not worried about like turning the camera off for half of it because we need to change lens,
right,
or running around and shooting the ground while we're getting there.
Right.
So there's huge like chunks of footage missing basically.
Yeah. You also go on stage as the cameraman, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go. And then you've got a very brief second to get close to somebody, maybe even the singer, but there's an audience there too. So you get your little shot, and then you kind of scurry off again, you know? It's not like you're there the whole time. No. You're just running in and out of, and then you run to the other side of the stage, and you're like, let me get a little bit of the drummer. Oh, shit, that guy's doing something. You run back around the stage.
It's crazy. And then the other person who's not filming is watching the other person who is filming miss all the stuff that they can't see because they're filming the one person.
Yeah.
And you're like, that guy's doing a solo right now.
Yeah.
And
by the end of it, I remember, because I shot 3 and you shot 3, I would
sweaty.
just be drenched in sweat.
But that means that the footage we have is like little snippets
fragmented
of content.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're trying to put it together and you get their song that they send to us, that is, you know, at least for most of them, properly recorded.
Yeah.
It's not our audio that we captured on the day because that doesn't sound good. It's just, you know, one microphone. It's like the times when the best part of the song that you want to use in the edit matches up with what you actually have in terms of footage where someone is singing. Yeah. It's just never happened. Yeah. There's a reason why all of the parts in the video are pretty much without lyrics. I picked parts of the music where they're just playing, or where it's a little bit more abstract, or I cut away from the person singing when they start singing,
right?
Because it was so hard to match them up. And then structurally, to create a video that was between 5 and 6 minutes long, that showed all 6 bands. There's not 6 individuals; it's 6 bands. Yeah, and there's also a feeling of wanting to try and incorporate something from everyone a little bit because it is for them all. Yeah. To be able to see, because they put a lot of work into prepping for this concert. Yeah. And they basically did everything from building the stage and getting the lights and hiring sound people. And they were in charge of everything. So it was a way to kind of have something to remember that by this video. So I wanted to put everyone in it. But then it's like, you start to want to have a subject, and the videos we make tend to have that, like a single focus point. You can kind of focus on that, so it becomes easy to see the progression of the story, but you keep jumping around. You have to like reset a little bit and introduce who they are, but then you have to move on to the next person so quickly. Yeah. Because there's 6 people or 6 bands.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was just an interesting challenge, I think. Yeah. For you to... Because it's also, I mean, in a perfect world, we would decide, hey, we want to shoot you guys leaving for the festival, and we want to be with you on the bus, and we want to then shoot you a ride, you know, and it was not like that at all. It was like, here's one day of us kind of practicing, and if you want to ask the bands, some of them might want to say some stuff, and then it was at the festival. Yeah. And somehow you've got to create a story then that kind of spans the whole gamut. I think now if you watched it, you wouldn't question it. No. But I think that's the extra work that has to then go in. You got to create.
It feels like there's something there other than just random snippets of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, I mean, and it could so easily have been random snippets. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a good story.
But I'm very happy to now move on to another project.
Yeah. The big boy.
Yeah, the big one. I wonder how long we'll be spending on that.
Hopefully not too long, because we gotta get paid.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah. I feel very lucky to be able to work on that one.
Good.
The reason being is that you're on a little waltz.
Go on a walk.
So now you're able to like say it.
Yeah.
Last time you didn't want to like say it in case something changed.
Yeah, no, I am going on next Friday.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
If you don't go, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
That's a deal.
If you don't decide not to go,
Yeah.
I will just punch you in the face.
Yeah.
It feels like a punishment for me.
Why?
But okay. I don't want to punch you in the face.
What would you want to do?
Tell you to go.
Yeah, next Friday. I'm very I can't find the right word, but it's exactly what I wanted, right? Which is the same feeling as I was like, oh yeah, making Boris and Johan, that when you start, you're so clueless, you have no idea what you're doing, you're pretty sure it's a massive mistake, you're like going into it like, what, this is gonna go horribly wrong. I'm just saying that's kind of like the mindset. Obviously, you know it's gonna be okay in the end and blah blah. And then it's just you just said it, like a fear of the unknown, you know?
Yeah.
That very anxious, like, well, here I go.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. So what do you do? What's the process? Where are you going? How do you get there?
Well, I take the Flixbus to Stockholm, and then there's a night train, or it's not a night train.
How long is it to Stockholm from here?
I have no idea. I think I'd leave at night, and I would arrive in the morning in Stockholm, and then it's a very long train ride from Stockholm to Hemavan.
Is that like, do you have to then like wait a bunch of time, or is it?
No, it's one.
So you got to make that one.
Yeah, but I think I get to Stockholm at like 7 a.m. and then it doesn't leave till 9 a.m. and it's at the same station.
Okay.
So, I mean, unless something went terribly wrong. Although if something goes wrong, that's bad.
When's the next one then?
Like 4 days from then.
Oh.
You can't miss it. I mean, they only leave twice every week.
So you're leaving a 2-hour window only?
Well, it's kind of unless I want to spend the night in Stockholm. I mean, I'm still on a budget.
Right.
So it's
I guess this is part of the whole unknown thing.
I mean, it's like I guess you can plan as much as you want.
Why would it be late?
And I'm going with a Flixbus that there's ones that have a stop in the middle, and I'm just going direct.
Okay.
So that's kind of trying to mitigate.
I guess worst
as much
case
as possible.
always
Even if a tire went out, I mean, 2 hours.
Right.
You know, that's a long delay.
Yeah.
Anyways, so then you take the train to Hemavan, and I'll get there at like 10:30, and then I got to decide if I want.
Is that all the way north?
No, that's the southernmost point.
South,
I'm going south to north.
Oh wait, you're going. No, you're still going.
I'm going south to north.
Yeah, but from where is Stockholm and
south?
So
way south. If you look on a map,
yeah,
it's like, because the trail is 500 kilometers.
Oh, okay.
For a second, I was like, oh, it's from it's not. It's just the top part of Sweden, really,
I
right?
See.
But you got to get up there.
That's what I mean.
It's not an easy place to get to.
North to start on the south part of the trail.
Exactly.
To walk north.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then you get there, and I don't know. I can either take I'm gonna call the hostel there, and you can sleep with a tent for a lot cheaper. So I think I'll do that.
Wait. What hostel?
Just a youth hostel. At the most southern point of the trail.
Okay. Why not just sleep in the tent?
I thought about that, but it's like, it's 10:30, and like, then you got to figure out where the trail even starts. Like, I don't think all of that is like super, like there's a big arrow pointing, like go here. It already have been a long day. I've been debating it. I could just walk into the trail a little bit and set camp.
Right.
And then, people are like, wow, you really got far the first day. I'd be like, I got lost. Got turned around.
I got here at night.
I just arrived. I did it. I'm going back. I'm going to do it again. Yeah, and then you start.
So do you have like a set amount of kilometers you have to make a day?
Yeah.
What is it?
No idea.
Okay. But you will know.
I have a schedule that comes in that book of kind of how much you need to do per day to make it in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I don't want to sound cocky,
but you can do it.
Well, I don't think it's ridiculous. If I was doing it in 2 weeks, I'd be like, I need to have everything fucking down to a T. Or like some people like run it in like 9 days or something. 3 weeks is like a comfortable. I mean, if you just do the math.
Yeah, what is the average? I can't do quick math in my head.
What is it? 500 divided by 21 is 24 kilometers a day.
Sounds like a walk.
It's a walk. It's a walk for sure.
So like, what are you looking the most forward to about it?
I don't know.
There's got to be something.
I don't know.
Where it's like this specific thing or this general feeling or
I think
getting in the tent for the first time. Or is there something that you're
that
imagining?
I'm excited about?
Is it being alone or is it maybe meeting someone halfway through and being like, hey, and then hanging out with them?
All
or
of
is it
that
like
sounds very
the nature
exciting.
or
that all sounds exciting.
But there's not one thing that you kind of
I think I'll look forward to like the first week because I think the first days are going to be pretty rough because you're trying to figure everything out. And I'm sure it's, I've read a couple things that the first couple days are like really the most miserable and trying to figure stuff out. And
that makes sense.
You get into it. And like, I know my friend Lily had said she walked a trail in Scotland and she walked, I think, for 4 or 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's just, and she's like, oh my God, it was so fucking difficult. It was so, and I was like, oh, but I think that would be the hardest thing to do is just do something for 5 days and then stop and not get into the routine of something where it's like, at some point it just normalizes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would imagine.
Day 15, it's still not normal.
Yeah. But I think just the forgetting about everything.
Yeah.
Anything that seems like a problem now, at some point will be like, taken over by, that's a nice blueberry. Do you know what I mean?
I think just the physical act of moving you're like physically walking and just being outdoors. And more than that, I think the change of perspective by not having everything you're used to having is what makes you not think about things that are non-issues, but feel like issues.
It's very simple. It's like there's a lot of stuff going on in Copenhagen. A lot of things to keep my mind occupied. Mm-hmm. And I think in that situation, I don't know. I've never done anything like this before. No. Ever. Mm-hmm. I've never even like camped for more than a day unless it was at a music festival, which I would hardly say is camping in the wild or something.
No.
I mean, Lily had to show me how to pitch the tent and stuff. I am like as novice as it kind of gets when it comes to that stuff. And we've boiled water a couple times with your propane tank.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of things of, it's like, I think that's I'm also excited that there's nobody there. There's nobody, if I don't know how to do something, to be like, oh, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit like, I can do things at my own pace.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to bring the hammock?
Of course I'm going to bring the hammock. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to try to set it up at least a couple times, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Because it's like a leisure thing. I don't know if I come in, if it takes me all day to walk 24 kilometers.
I got to get my relaxation time in quick, put it up.
But I think it's also just good to have in case you never know. I think the main thing that the hammock actually it's like a tarp,
right?
Which is actually very good to have,
right? Yeah,
God forbid anything happens to the tent, it blows away or something. It's like probably good to have a.
Well, you probably
I'd just be like later.
Well, I got to do this without a tent now. Yeah. That'd be
pretty intense.
But, what are you the most afraid of about it? Like the thing that really
just getting there.
Just getting there mostly, yeah. I think once you're there, it's like, what could really, like, what is the worst thing that could happen?
Nothing really. And I'm not going to be talking to anybody, so I don't feel like
there's
nobody going to be like, oh, you should have prepared for that.
Right.
It's like,
it's
just going to be.
That's interesting, though, that the fear of looking like you made a mistake sometimes is more fear-inducing or makes you more nervous than actually just making the mistake.
Yeah.
Someone else seeing you do it.
There's certain things in life that I just don't think you want to plan that much. I'm just not that. Even with Boris and Johan, I mean, I planned extensively, but then there's also a point where you just jump in and it's like, well, here we go.
Yeah. No amount of planning can really prepare you.
I guess. I mean, you got to learn somehow,
Yeah.
you know, and people are always going to say, oh, you should have thought about that. And it's like, okay.
Well, now
I will definitely not forget about this thing.
About my sleeping bag.
Right. Or, yeah, there's just so much stuff you can just the simple thing is like, what kind of shoes do you bring?
Right.
It's like you go down this massive rabbit hole of all these things and everybody has an opinion on shoes and what is the weather condition and blah, 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 blah. You know, and then you hear about some guy walking the PCT. Literally, he cut up like a tire and tied rope around it and walked the whole thing. So it's like, not to say that you shouldn't plan and look into those things, but I think you can go a little crazy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I'm excited to film it. I think that's going to be really fun. And
so what kind of kit are you going to pack?
Just a camera, lens, microphone, batteries. Simple.
That's what you need.
That's all you need.
No drone and slider and
nada.
3-axis gimbal.
Nada. Swimming. I'm excited to like jump in the water and.
Oh man.
Or. I don't even know what to expect. That's the thing. I don't know.
I'm so excited on your behalf. I really want to do that at some point too.
That's gonna be good. I'll give you the book.
I mean, any trail, but that is very close. I mean, you've inspired Phoebe and I a little bit. We're planning a little 1 to 2 day
getaway
camping excursion in Sweden so that we can camp outdoors legally.
You guys should do it in Abisko.
What's that?
That's the northernmost part. You just meet me there. Well, hey.
That's a little far for a day.
But I really like that about Sweden. That's going back to not having done Slovenia. That actually started stressing me out a ton about Slovenia.
I remember.
It's not legal to camp. And in your head, you're like, well, we'll just do it and we'll figure it out. But there's something, it's so nice, the idea of like, you walk, you camp, you don't have to worry about where you camp.
Is someone going to see you?
You're
going to get woken up in the middle of the night by someone who's telling you to pay a fine.
Right. Which is just another thought. So it'll just leave you with more thoughts to have, you know?
That was the most uncomfortable part about when we went our little 3-day trip over Christmas was when we slept in the car that night.
Yeah.
And
we're very
it's the police amazing. Knocked on the door and was like, "What are you guys doing?" And I was immediately like, ugh.
Yeah.
But they said it was fine.
Yeah.
Still, that feeling is not so nice.
No, it's really not.
I want to be able to focus on other things.
Right. And then it kind of ruins you got to stop at a camping ground. Yeah, but that's the whole point. While we're out, we don't want to stop at a camping ground.
Yeah.
It's literally like, everyone's in their living room and we're just awkwardly perched in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
And there are hot showers that you have to pay for anyways. And, there's all this stuff that you're like, kind of.
The point is to get away from stuff like that a little bit.
I thought so.
I guess not for everyone.
Yeah, but you know what? That's an interesting question because I do not get the point of taking a Wohnwagen or whatever that is, camper van.
Yeah.
Hooking up a satellite dish to it and then sitting they were like, oh, these people stay here for like a month, you know? And it's like, you're just living in a different house a little bit. Is there a financial reason? Or I just don't get
Sure, it's kind of.
I was never raised with that. Maybe it's a fun experience, but I was like, it just feels like everybody has a satellite dish. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, a little.
I thought so.
I guess it's like you still will have.
There's
like
showers,
a little bit of
and
a
you
change
have
of
to
perspective.
Go into a different building to clean your dishes. Yeah. Ugh.
But I mean, so many people do it.
It's a very German thing. I was so shocked when we went there because that was like 1,000 meters squared of space or whatever. Packed.
Oh, you're talking about where we went?
Yeah.
With the tent, right.
I mean, it was packed.
God. That night was tough in the tent. In the middle of December. with sleeping bags that were for +4 degrees.
Yeah. I can't remember if
I was so cold.
Colder in that one. How's it going? We still have the footage of that.
We've got so much footage of so many things, so many ideas.
You want to restart?
Let's do some review time.
It's review time.
It's review time. Movies. Podcasts. Books. Do you have anything to review?
No.
You haven't watched anything?
Not that I can remember.
What about any music or any books or any podcasts or...
No, I'm going to skip this week.
All right. Well, I'm going to review... Well, I'm not going to review. I'm just going to talk about real quick that Phoebe and I finished watching the final season of Orange is the New Black.
Uh-huh.
I find final seasons, they can be so bad, or it's almost like either they are so bad or they are like not bad.
I'm trying to think of a...
Like, I feel like it's so tough to wrap up such a big story.
Yeah.
Because it's seasons and seasons and seasons
of
content and characters, and everyone's has something.
Yeah.
So how do you possibly kind of put something like that to rest?
I'm also guessing most shows, you don't write the whole show. You're writing season to season.
Right.
Which means if the network then says, this is your last season, you've probably opened it up in the previous season to make, what if we have to do another 3 seasons? We got to open up all these new storylines. And then if someone says, you got to wrap it up in one, I could see how that's all of a sudden like, everybody dies.
Right, well, like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Everyone hated it, but it's like...
Everyone really hated it,
I feel like everyone hated it, even if it was entirely different.
No, I think they could have answered a couple questions.
There's a couple of things that are missing.
But
with Orange is the New Black, it's also based on a true story.
Is it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the woman who goes to prison, who it kind of is about in the first season, she quickly becomes just one of the characters.
Yeah.
But she's the one who introduces us to the world of this women's prison. She's actually wrote a book about her experience.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's based on that. And she's the executive producer on all of them.
I did not know that.
Or just straight up producer. She's the first credit every time.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. But I thought they did a really good job of ending the season. Or not ending it.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like, okay, I don't. I didn't feel like, no, it's over. Or like, oh my God, how could they end it like that? It felt like it was a justified ending, and it's just very pleased with that. And I feel like it says something if a show can do a final season well. I think Mad Men did it. I don't think Game of Thrones did it. Breaking Bad, I honestly don't know. I feel like that also, like, if I had to pick the best season, it definitely wouldn't be the last season. So it's just a tough thing. And then another thing, I read a book called Darkness Visible about depression and suicide, which is I like a couple months ago, I bought a bunch of books that I wanted to read to help me with writing my script. Yeah. And the first one I read was just so bulky and so like difficult to read that I was just not reading very much at a time. So I'm still on that book. So I finally decided to skip ahead and read one of the other ones, which is a short, like 90-page. I think memoir is the right word. What is a memoir? It's like an account of something that happened in their life. Is that what a memoir is?
I don't know. I was gonna say a memoir is like someone's life. Oh. But I guess if you're writing about your own life, why wouldn't that be a memoir?
Wouldn't that be like an autobiography?
Same thing, I think.
It's about this one. Oh gosh, now I need to remember the name of the author. That's embarrassing. Well,
we'll put it in the lower thirds.
We'll add this. Yeah, he wrote about when he went through a serious bout of depression and almost committed suicide, but ended up hospitalizing himself instead. And I think it was like it's such a, like when you Google what are the best books about suicide or depression, this one came up. So that's why I got it. And I don't know, I wasn't like blown away by it or anything, but I feel like for the time that it came out, it was probably something that people didn't talk about that often.
Yeah.
And so it was just interesting to hear about someone who, and like all the celebrities that have also committed suicide.
Yeah.
And how normal it actually is for people suffering specifically from manic depression, that it almost like it can very predictably lead to that. And it just kind of explored it. It was brought up a lot of like things where you're like, there is no right answer. There is no way to treat this thing. There's no solution to feeling in a specific, it's like, it literally is different for every person, which I think is probably the hardest thing. It's like, you can't just look up what to do if you're depressed.
Yeah.
I think an interesting part of the book was the word depression, and how that is almost one of the biggest issues. Is the word depression gets thrown around like it's nothing.
Candy.
Like, oh, I'm so depressed right now.
Yeah.
Or that's depressing, or that depresses me, or I have depression.
Yeah.
Or I am like manically depressed.
Yeah.
Like, well, which one? Like, what are those? It's all kind of the same word, but like,
yeah,
there's so many things within that
right.
It doesn't do any. It almost like is a
just like one could be
thing.
Sadness, and one could be a lack of energy, which would be two totally different things.
One could be grief.
People would say, "I'm depressed.
Right.
I can't get out of bed."
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that everyone's crying in bed. Yeah.
But yeah, this is a horrible review because I don't know. I didn't really think about what to say. I just was like, that's something I read this week.
Well, was it good?
Yeah. I just really like when I can read something. I do enjoy the feeling of starting something, like reading it and then finishing it, and feeling like, okay, I did something.
Yeah.
It's almost like a satisfying feeling, even if it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Not saying it wasn't, but I do. I'm reading this thick book that I'm like, oh my God, it's never ending. Don't get that feeling of like wanting to read. I do like the process a little bit.
I see.
I think that's it in terms of review.
Well, off of that, I think going back to the Kungsleden a little bit, I think I haven't been reading very much. I want to say like in the past, I've read here and there, but like in the past like 2 years, I really haven't read as much as I'd like to be reading. And I think going on the walk as well is something like I hope that it will allow me to reset a little bit. Right. Get away from some habits, implement some new habits.
That's what we love to talk about on this podcast.
That's right. Ooh, and I was going to mention, just a quick aside, I had kind of briefly told you that I wasn't watching YouTube, like maybe a week or two ago.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
And it was a bet I was doing with Kevin for a month, where I had done that and a couple other things. And part of the bet was we said we can't tell anybody until the bet's over.
That's interesting.
So it was really interesting, actually. So I was doing all this stuff that I couldn't tell you about. And then even afterwards, it felt a little bit weird to bring it up.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, hey, for the past month suddenly it felt very strange to even like talk about it in any depth whatsoever. But it just on the surface level, the sort of doing something without telling people, it was very helpful, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That whole you avoid the thing of somebody kind of giving you praise before you finish doing it. But it was also nice to have one person in on it.
Who knew?
So we could, because that's the sort of accountability that I need sometimes.
Yeah.
If it's just myself, it's very hard to be like, yeah, but you said it. And I'll be like, well, I say a lot of things. Yeah. And I'll start having a whole dialogue in my head where it says just that little bit of accountability and then doing something. And that urge at the very beginning, you want to tell people so bad. But yeah, it just felt different and less of a big deal, I guess. Less of like, oh, we're doing a bet. We're not going to do this thing. We're changing it. It just felt very
the focus is on the actual thing itself.
Right. And then I think the thing that came out of it too was that because there wasn't this big talked about thing, the bet ended. And it's just kind of, I've been more likely to continue with the bet. Right. Because it's not like, it is still just this ongoing, like, you don't tell everybody that. I mean, as I'm telling everybody on a podcast, but, you know. Yeah, I just like that idea of doing stuff.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I notice it does add a lot of pressures at times too, like the Kungsleden and stuff. At points I'd felt like I told too many people that if something changed, it's kind of this big deal that maybe it's not going to work out, or maybe it's, you know. And I think sometimes it's like, I guess keep it to yourself, but then you should also share. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
the point. Maybe part of the point is that I've gone very much in a direction of I'm going to tell everybody everything because I believe in honesty. That is the thing I value the most in a person. But then you would realize there is a nuance to it, and not everybody needs to know everything.
No.
Not about you, not if somebody says something about you, I don't necessarily need to tell you. There's like a lot of, you know, maybe I'm getting a little more.
Yeah, no, I think I am too, maybe. Well, I mean, I often look at the YouTube videos that I made before you moved here, kind of the year before, and how at the time I wasn't making them, it didn't feel like I was making them to show off or to feel like other people saw me in a certain way. But it's hard not to see a little bit of that looking at it now, and how, well, would you have done those things if literally no one knew about those things and you just had to internalize everything? I'm talking about like, I made a video about running a marathon,
right,
or about reading,
right,
or about rock climbing, or about mountaineering, or starting the company,
right.
And like, if you asked me that, I'd say the reason why I made them was because I see this as a super useful platform to have an audience on for like in the future, and to build, and just to practice making content as well, and the consistency of it. And there's just a lot of things that are positive about being on that platform. But looking at it now, it's like, I feel a lot more comfortable just doing certain things without needing to make a video about it.
Yeah.
Which is also, it's kind of a nice feeling. I feel less, the thought of someone knowing what I'm doing excites me less than it used to, I think.
Right.
If I'm doing something good.
Right.
Which I think is good.
Yeah. I mean, I still want the validation at the end of the day. I'm maybe more saying just that I can put it off until the end. I don't need to tell people I'm going on a walk. I can go on the walk and then afterwards be like, oh yeah, I did that.
Right.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes sense.
I really need to go to the bathroom.
Okay. We'll leave that in. And we're back. Here's a question.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about, so like when we're recording this podcast?
Yeah.
Yes, this is a casual conversation that is like very similar to what we would, you know, if we were just sitting here talking.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that kind of conversation, but it is still not entirely. As in, like, I still can't, I feel like I can't completely say exactly what I think. I mean, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I think we like having conversations about things that we don't have a formulated opinion on yet, is so that we can kind of practice our, like, explore our own thoughts a little bit and say some stuff that we might not fully support in the time, or fully know even.
Sometimes you got to say something, and then you can be like, oh, that's
Yeah, because otherwise you kind of need to verbalize it sometimes to know what it is you're thinking.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it comes out wrong.
Yeah.
But that fear of it coming out wrong.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think both of us have watched like that Jim Carrey documentary.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Jim and Andy.
Where he just completely becomes a different person, and it seems.
I would go so far. That is my favorite documentary of all time.
Yeah, well, I think about it a lot.
Yeah,
and I've only seen it once.
I've seen it like I think 3 times now.
Every so often, I'll think about it, and it'll give me like this sudden like burst of just like inspiration to just be myself.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not being myself.
Yeah.
I feel like there is this underlying fear of what other people will think about you that is sometimes a little bit upsetting.
It sucks. I agree.
It's so strong, even on something like just this.
Yeah.
Where there's nothing really obvious about like something I don't want to talk about or something but I'm still constantly a little bit like aware of the fact that other people are listening.
Yeah.
And that if I say something that sounds a little bit dumb or isn't fully formulated or isn't like a perfect sentence, I'm like, that wasn't good.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
I guess it's an ego thing a little bit.
Right.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is I think I've gotten a lot better at just saying whatever.
Saying whatever, I don't care, or saying anything?
Saying whatever comes to mind. Like today, like I don't have a lot of thoughts that I've prepared for this thing, right?
Right. I find that so hard.
Yeah. But you know what the weird thing is? A lot of times I'll think I've said something horrible or stupid, and after the podcast, I'll be like, that was so stupid,
Yeah, you
Taylor.
do that a lot.
Why did you say that?
Yeah.
Right now, even now, I'm like, why did you have
Well, I'm thinking about my review about Darkness Visible, because I feel like that was so like, the fuck was I even talking about? I feel like that's such a serious subject, and there was a lot of really important, interesting things that I just didn't like. But who cares? It's just a book I read.
Yeah. What are you guys gonna do about it? You know? But what I was gonna say is, what is interesting is that I tend to have this negative reaction right afterwards, which I have with everybody. Like I'll talk to people on the phone and I'll get off with them, and I'm like such a psychopath about like, oh, I didn't say bye. I ruined the whole conversation. It's all shit. They hate me, right? And my mind just immediately goes there. It's so very strange. But from doing the podcast and listening to it afterwards,
right,
I keep on seeing like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's totally fine what you said. And honestly, who gives a shit? That's
the part I'm getting at, is that like it is often fine. No one even notices whatever it is you're thinking about. But it's still in the moment doesn't feel good.
Yeah, but I guess you
that's
gotta
the part
just
I'm interested
ignore it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like it's a little bit like, I don't have it, but I can equate it a little bit to people who say when they look in the mirror, they see something else.
Yeah.
Right? Like body dysmorphia.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got like speech dysmorphia or something. Like what I say and what I think I've said is so different from what I've actually said. Right? And I think I even have it a little bit with pictures. If I take a picture of myself, I'll be like, oh God. Ugh. But then I'll look at it like a year later, right? I'll go through my photo album or something.
That's a handsome
and I'm
guy.
like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good picture.
Right. That's interesting.
You know? But like, I think it's quite common, actually. I mean, I think, you know, it's the same thing where you like go on a date with somebody or something and both sides think it was horrible themselves to the other, and then you talk to it and it's like, oh, no, it was fine. Nobody noticed the thing that you thought everybody was paying attention to. Right? It's like when you have a pimple and you walk down the street and you're like, literally everyone is looking at this pimple right now. And it's like, obviously nobody is. Or the whole, I just read, did we talk about this? Somebody was saying when they shave their beard, they feel like, where did I hear that? Say they shave their beard, and to them they look so strange. Right. So they'll be embarrassed to go outside.
Yeah, but no one knows that that's not what they normally look like.
Oh, everyone thinks I look so stupid. And it's like, to everybody else, it's the most normal thing in the world.
Right.
It just shows how like skewed.
So how do you not, Because obviously there is a reason why that's so built into us, that we are worry about what other people think about us.
Yeah.
It does have its benefits. You don't want to be just completely inconsiderate of what other people are thinking.
No.
But like, what do you do to not let that become the main thing, or even become a big thing?
Like mindfulness.
Yeah.
Right. Because as long as you're aware, I guess that kind of stops it in its tracks for me. Because I also have things where like my mind and my body will be out of alignment. Like I'll go somewhere and my body will be acting super nervous. Right? And I'm like sweating, and I'll be like, my voice will start to quiver and stuff. But my mind can be totally clear in that moment. Right?
Like,
which I find
what?
super strange.
Okay, what's like...
Like...
If you're talking to someone?
Like if I get in an argument with somebody, sometimes my mind is super clear. But my body, like, because the adrenaline goes into it or whatever, will start to go, and then your voice gets a little bit quivery. And then it could become this thing. And I'm always like, so strange, because mentally I'm not feeling the way my body is feeling at the moment.
Maybe you are, though.
I don't think so, because I think I'm quite aware of, like, there are times where my mind and my body would link up perfectly, where I would be super nervous mentally and be like, oh my God. And then my body kind of reacts in the same way. But then I think just being mindful about it and being like, okay, well, I can't really control that the same way I can't control the immediate urge for people to like me, but afterwards I can step in and kind of be aware of it and either bring it up right away and be like, well, that was weird that my voice quivered, and half the time just saying that kind of like releases the tension in the room or something, or the same way you could have just cared about what somebody thought about, something that you did, and then you can kind of, I guess, just dismiss it.
So maybe, I mean, your
voice
the root. Quivering obviously comes from something mental.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Then afterwards, it's almost like you're able to go, well, that was almost just like a reflex. I didn't really mean to feel that way. And I can control it more than I think.
Right. It's more the aftermath that I can control. I can't really control how my body reacts to certain...
Like you're
some people are like, they go out on stage and they don't have stage fright.
Yeah.
And I think it's very hard, besides like behavioral therapy, where maybe you go out on stage every week until it finally starts to subside a little bit, right? But that's a very hard thing to kind of tackle a little bit, I think, as opposed to the thing afterwards, which is like more the mental, I guess.
But like, let's take someone coming up to you, and like yelling in your face, telling you all sorts of horrible things. You get angry and you either walk away or you like start arguing back or something. That's a very clear, like, they did something to upset me and I'm aware of it, therefore that's why I'm feeling like I'm feeling. Another example would be someone says something that triggers something in you that maybe you're a little bit unaware of what that is, but it makes you feel upset or angry. And that could be what triggers something of a adrenaline reaction. Even though there's nothing really happening in terms of it being an uncomfortable confrontation or something. Right.
Maybe that's the...
And then that feels like my body's doing something that my brain isn't doing.
Right. Or I think the perfect example for me is social situations. Because I'm very conscious of the fact that in 3 days, even in 1 day, I won't give a shit about that moment anymore. I'm not going to be like, oh, that party that I had to go to and talk to people, right? Because I've done it 100 times, and 100 out of 100 times,
you've not cared.
I've not cared afterwards. If you left a bad impression on somebody, or if you weren't the most, if every joke didn't land or whatever, it's like, that's a ridiculous thing. But I still go in with knowing that, and I'll still be nervous, right? For example, like your dad's birthday party, right? I've done it a million times. And that specific, it was just very like overwhelming. But I don't know what would have led to that. I think it's just I am an introvert. My body reacts that way. It's a slow change that kind of a process?
Yeah.
It's a question, can you even change something like that? Or is that like really deeply rooted in you?
Because I think that's a little bit what I'm getting at.
Right. But the thing I could have done is, despite my body being like that, I could have mentally kind of been like, no, you're gonna... Yeah. The thing is, like, after the party, it's like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Literally nobody cares.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you nobody was like, well, Taylor was weird.
I'm joking.
It's like all in your own head at the end of the day, right?
For the vast majority
I
of
would
times,
say, yeah. Like nobody cares that much about you.
To like, wait, did I actually make a fool of everything?
Well, if you were, yeah, exactly.
Of course, I'm joking. I get what you mean.
So that's kind of the perfect example. And then at some point, you're just like, I guess that's just how I react in those situations.
There are a few times though when it just feels like it goes away, and it's like, what happened? Why am I able to suddenly feel completely relaxed in situations that would normally really freak me out, or I'd have a physical reaction to?
Right.
Like, what? Like, is that something that can be practiced, or is it something that you can like?
I'd be curious.
Or is it just something that is? Probably not. Probably it is something you can.
I don't know. I read a book once with Kevin because we both felt we were so bad at picking up girls. So there was this like how to pick up girls book, right? And it kind of tried to explain to you, as in, it's such a bizarre book, first of all, to even that anyone wrote a book like this. But I was trying to get to the point of like, if you go to a bar, you have to assume that the girls are at that bar because they want to have social interactions with people. Otherwise, you wouldn't go to a bar. Right?
Yeah, if you wanted to be by yourself.
That is the social situation. Right. So you should get at least past the idea of like they don't want to talk to you. So you should approach them confidently, and then obviously read the situation and kind of see like, do they like you? Do they not like you? But you shouldn't immediately go like, nobody in this bar wants to talk to me.
Yeah, and I gotta like awkwardly change people's minds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're all here for the same reason, right? And maybe they're not attracted to you, and that's why they don't. But as a whole, you can kind of go into it with that. And he was trying to explain that, with knowing that will change kind of how you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it didn't change shit for me.
Oh.
And you could argue that I didn't really believe that at the end of the day or whatever.
Right.
But it's also just like, I'm just not like that, Man. But I don't have a problem because kind of when I think about it, I always come back to, well, why do you act like that? And it's because whatever situation that is, I care if I'm on the phone with somebody and I think it was bad. It's because I care about that person. And I shouldn't care about necessarily what they think, but it means that person means something to me, and
right.
I value them. And I was like, I guess that's just a reaction to, if I went to a party and I literally didn't know anybody and didn't care about the people.
But you'd still care about how you came across to a stranger.
But less.
Right. I find like, for example, when that bathroom guy was here yesterday.
Yeah. I
had such a strong reaction to that interaction, like physically. Exactly what you were just saying. I got all adrenaline-y.
Yeah.
My voice started getting all quivery, and I could feel myself not being able to formulate my words properly. Also because I was speaking in Danish, which is, as soon as it goes outside my very limited vocabulary, it gets very difficult. But afterwards, I was so annoyed at myself for letting the way he behaved get to me. And I was like, that's my fault. As much as I want to say that he was being an asshole and was super rude and was like, it wasn't right what he did, whatever that even means.
Yeah.
Like I'm still processing all that and interpreting all that and letting that affect me to such a degree that it I was really upset.
Right.
Like really angry. And I really had to try hard not to let it anger me more.
Right.
And that's what bothered me afterwards. I didn't care about what the guy said or what happened. I was just like, why did I have such a strong reaction to this person?
But even that's different because that's you afterwards being like...
It was in the moment as well. I was like, why are you letting this happen to you right now?
Right.
Just relax.
Right,
just
but isn't that almost impossible?
What are you doing? Why are you getting all You were like verbally fighting this stranger right now.
Right. But it's like a biological, like you're going into fight or flight.
It was. Yeah, it was.
So then you're trying to change.
I feel like I spent so much time thinking about how do I control my emotions. Not like, how do I control my emotions, but how do I like understand what's going on.
Right.
And prepare for things like that. So that like high stress situations, I can be like aware of what's going on and kind of like take a step back.
Right.
I felt like it took a really long time for me to like physically take a step back. And I ended up like leaving the room.
Yeah.
And coming back.
Yeah.
And then it was fine.
Yeah.
I guess it is just like a biological thing that sometimes you can't.
I guess. But then when I equate it to like, because some people can have like anger flashes.
That's what it reminded. I was like, oh my God, I can imagine what it feels like to have anger management problems.
Yeah. So what do
never
they
happens
do?
To me. Though.
Because I need a nervous management class.
Right.
What would you they probably have like techniques for when you're...
Maybe.
You know what? That analogy itself, just saying that, then I'm like, no, I think you can change it.
Yeah.
Because if it was anger, I would be like, you have to change that. You can't let that...
Right. Obviously, if you act out on it and you get angry, like whether it be verbal or physical.
Right. But people who raise their voices and stuff, I don't think they're consciously... And I'm going to raise my voice now so I get the control of the situation. I think it just happens.
Yeah.
The same way I would start to be like sweating or,
Yeah.
not being able to think clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say for someone who like raises their voice, that is not okay.
No.
Like you should not.
You should learn to change
not
that.
To do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn. Does it change at all when you have like you have a girlfriend, you have a child? Like, what do you have to care about what other people think about you? You already have your secure pod and the people that unconditionally love you and this little bit of of course, I mean, people deal with it all the time. I'm not saying why you. I know. But that's an interesting question, or that it doesn't go away. Even though you have all the...
Oh, when you were talking about the bar example, I was thinking, well, biologically, it would make sense for that to be a high-stakes situation, whether or not you want it to be. That kind of like biologically, we would be designed for interactions, in your case, with the opposite sex, to be something important, that it's in your desire for it to go well, at least some of the time, that there's something in it,
but I'm uncomfortable in that social situation,
because
I don't think a bar is a natural environment that we're equipped for.
So
because I feel very comfortable in other situations.
See, that's interesting.
Yeah It's very specifically that situation where you have to go up to somebody and peacock. I don't like doing that. I like having a conversation, figuring out if there's some sort of connection. And then my personality can change. Like, I can like be a little bit charming and turn all these things on that I don't really have control over.
What do you do when you're charming?
I don't know, but I can very quickly change from... I would notice it even in parties or something. As soon as I feel comfortable, and I feel like you've shown me that you like me a little bit, so I can stop worrying about that little thing. Right? That I'm not annoying you or anything.
Yeah.
It's like all that washes away, and then my personality comes through. But if I never get to that point, I'm the fucking weirdest person to like be around, because I'm so like, oh, are you okay?
It's the same in an argument, though, or a conversation with someone. As soon as you feel like the other person, even just on a tiny level, understands part of what you're saying, it's almost like you can like relax a little bit and actually talk about the issue more.
Right.
But until you feel that, it's like...
And that's, I think, a big problem is small talk. Because I think that's what normally people do, is have a little bit of small talk. You like the Patriots? I love the Patriots. A little bond, and then you can go from there. And I'm the fucking worst at that.
Same.
Because I'll talk about like shit that we talk about in the podcast.
So what do you think about...
Like, what do you think about this kind of... I'm not trying to go deep with you or anything, but it's just like, I don't know, I was thinking about that day, so I say that. And that's...
You'll just straight up say, like, what do you think about, like...
I think it's a very awkward
subject.
not massive, but like when I was at your parents' party, I like turned and I was like, hey, so I've really been having some problems figuring out hobbies and being a little bit lonely when I'm at home. What do you do for,
Yeah, okay. I see.
And it's like it's a bigger thing than just like,
well,
how the weather is nice.
Salad?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Should try that part of the plate.
Which sometimes is great if it's a person like me. And I'm not saying, there's just certain people you talk to and you're like, oh my God, I talked to you for like 10 hours straight and we would never stop. Because that's that similar. And then sometimes you kind of just hit a wall. And then I really don't know what to do on a human level. I'm like, I think we're just a little bit
I find that very difficult.
Different.
I think that's why I find it difficult to be in social situations as well. I'm not in very many social situations to start out with.
Yeah.
But it is this feeling of like, I find it very hard to do the small talk thing because it doesn't interest me. And then I'm like, well, why do you care if it interests you or not? Like maybe sometimes it's just a way to move to something more.
That's what
important.
I think too. I don't think about people and be like, oh my God, that was so boring what they...
No,
I would never think that. But I would think that about myself if I said something. And I'd be like, oh, well, that was boring.
And part of me is also like, is it like, am I pretending like it's because I want to, be a little bit stubborn and say like, fuck the small talk, let's only talk about real things? Or is it really because I'm afraid of sounding stupid doing small talk?
Right.
Does that make sense? Because you just said if someone else does small talk, you don't go like, oh, that's stupid of them. You're almost like,
yeah.
Oh, it's almost admirable that you're able to do it a little bit.
Well, when I see two people do it, I'm like, wow. Because for me, it takes so much more energy to talk in that way. Because my mind's like, oh, what are you going to talk about next? Whereas this is more just flowing. I'm not thinking about the next thing we're going to bring up.
No.
You're saying something and then I kind of react to it.
Yeah.
Which I guess is small talk. But for whatever reason, that specific thing is more like facts and, oh, that's interesting. It's the same shit. I don't know why it's suddenly so much more difficult, but
I find the best parts of social situations is when you suddenly reach a point in the conversation where you are willing to question something they just said. Or it happens the other way, where the other person questions something you just said.
Oh, yeah.
Like, wait, you actually think that blah, 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 blah?
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, I do. And then you start talking about it, like, actually, no, I kind of phrased that the wrong way. This is what I actually think. Or I hear you say something, and then I'm like, I don't know if that's true. Or like, you don't just go along with it. I feel like that's what small talk is. It's when you're just talking, trying to make as little. You're trying not to hurt anyone or say anything wrong or make someone not want to continue talking to you. Or make someone uncomfortable.
Right.
It's all about being pleasant.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said it like that. Because that doesn't sound...
It's non-confrontational.
But it's also not like... the other way is confrontational. It's just like then you become a little bit like yourself. And this is something I find interesting.
I see.
And seems like you have something you think about it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Like even just asking hey, you said something about... Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
That's a little bit like forward. It's not saying anything against it.
No.
But it's like a step further. Well, maybe they don't want to talk more about it, and that's why they briefly mentioned it and didn't keep talking about it. But like...
And not everybody likes talking about not everyone's an open book who's just like, oh yeah, I, think this about that. Some people are a little bit more reserved, and rightfully so. I just, But I think, bringing the whole thing around, oh my God. That is some...
That was a poopy diaper.
Diarrhea.
That's just what it looks like.
Is that?
It's just milk. All he drinks is milk. How do you expect it to look any
That's
different?
all I drink too.
Creepiest thing you've ever said.
Bringing it back to the walk, when we went on your trip for 7 days, those days afterwards, it's exactly what I was talking about. When suddenly, I didn't care.
Yeah,
because it seemed so ridiculous to care about certain things in that moment, but they come back. But maybe that's part of it as well. It's this, when you put yourself, or after Boris and Johan, it's like when you look at your priorities after something like that, they're fucking all over the map. It's the weirdest thing of like, it clarifies suddenly, this is what's important. And this is the only thing that's important. And I should not let these other things kind of get in the way, but they always kind of come back due to, all these things. But I think that's part of the reason for going on as well. You're putting yourself in such a unique situation for yourself, something that you've never done, that it allows you to. It's like, I'm sure if you're out in nature for 3 weeks by yourself and then you go into a grocery store and somebody has a complaint about, I'm sure just you react to it very differently. Like, well, this obviously isn't important.
It's kind of like reading about, because, okay, going on the trip is a good example.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it feels like, for a brief moment, it feels like, oh, everything is kind of clear. Or there's something you understand, and that kind of allows you to be really confident for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And then it slowly starts to, kind of literally start to forget it. And you need to keep reminding yourself of certain things.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's like, you can't just read a book about something like self-help, for example, once. You gotta like keep reading it, or keep reading books about that subject.
Right.
Every so often. It's like, you can't just go to like one AA meeting and then that's it.
No.
You gotta keep going.
Till it's,
if that's what helps
you just gotta keep going forever. I mean, it might just be a lifelong.
You gotta keep reminding yourself, keep doing it, keep changing your perspective. Not changing your perspective, but like resetting your perspective.
Unless you're able to, like going back to Jim and Andy, obviously he's able to commit so much to something. And I think that's a very hard thing to do, actually. Even something so small, as, a couple of times I've had on my list for like a New Year's resolution. Like, I'm going to start looking everybody in the eyes. I'm going to avoid the thing where I avert my gaze.
But you can't go against your own biology.
I know, but it's
so hard.
But some people, I'm sure it's against Jim Carrey's biology to come onto set when everybody's at the first day being like, Jim, okay, we get it. Haha. Move on. And just to keep doing it.
I don't know. I'd say his personality is exactly the kind that could do that.
Yeah, maybe.
But maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's conclusive to just say that, okay, well, that's just what he's capable of. And
I'm saying, I think everybody could do it too, right? That's what I'm saying. But not everybody. Something way simpler, just looking people in the eyes, also you start to do it, and you're trying, and then it's just like this habit. It is so strong, very hard to. Maybe that's a bad example.
No, it's not. I think there will be a point where you're aware of why you're doing it. I'm aware. I'm looking someone in the eyes because I know that they aren't trying to catch me out on the one thing I might say wrong. They're not even aware of the fact that I maybe said something a bit stupid 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That's why I'm looking them in the eyes, to kind of be confident about my capabilities of socializing with people.
Right.
But slowly you start to forget that, and you start to feel like they are doing that.
Yeah.
And then you have to look away. Because if you're thinking that that's what they're doing, you can't keep looking at them, can you?
I don't know. I don't know if other people would realize, well, he's really looking me in the eyes.
No, no one would know.
You don't think?
Okay, maybe the eye thing, you're right. That's a weird example because no one stares at someone.
No, not staring, but enough that you're like I did it for 2 weeks in Copenhagen here, where I was like, because I do this weird thing. If I walk past somebody, I don't want to feel intimidating to them. by looking them in the eyes. Because it's a bit of stare down if you do it. Yeah. And I was like, no, for 2 weeks, I'm just going to do it.
You're going to stare at someone all the way?
No, just look at them. Like, take the chance, give them a look, wait till they look at you.
Smile.
And then, just be pleasant, but you don't look away until they look away.
Yeah.
Right? And it is this bit of a game, and it feels super intimidating, honestly. You do feel kind of like, yeah, that's right. You feel a little bit pumped afterwards because you're starting to be like, oh, you could control this on the street. This whole time, my whole life, I've been the person who like will look and then kind of like, I don't need to get into this, or not that this is anything, but it's just like habit. Like, I just don't do that.
No, but I think it's not. It's more than just a habit. Okay, a habit is something because you're thinking about it in a certain way.
Oh,
I think the way you're thinking about it is they're probably they think I'm weird right now, or I don't want them to think I'm weird.
I guess.
Whereas when you're staring at them, you're like, it doesn't matter. I don't care what they think even.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes no difference.
No.
But slowly you start to forget that it doesn't make a difference, and you start to convince yourself that in some weird way it does. Even though you know it doesn't. You start to feel like it does.
Right.
Kind of?
I guess. Even though... What'd you say?
I'm like, if someone asks you, do you think that walking by someone on the street has any effect on anything, even if you were to be clapping and staring at them the whole time, or
you're
never going to meet them again.
Right.
It has no difference. It makes no difference whether or not you stare at them.
Yeah.
But it makes you maybe feel a little bit like good about yourself that you're capable of like maintaining eye contact with someone and not have to like shy away.
Right.
But part of you starts to think more about what may be true, that actually they do think you're weird,
or that it is somehow intimidating matter.
Even though like cognitively
it shouldn't be,
like intellectually, that it doesn't matter, but somehow emotionally the feeling of it is important, it does matter, is overpowering,
and then you stop doing it.
Yeah,
I see.
You go with what's the most powerful emotion, right? I mean, that makes sense. If you're both happy and sad, but you're more happy, those are kind of hard,
I guess. But what about yeah, I mean, I guess every situation is different.
You need to like remind yourself and reset that.
Well, I think that's the thing, like with everybody's New Year's resolutions, let's say, is that we do it once a year and like nobody finishes it, because it's not like every month there's a celebration of like, all right, remember that feeling? Well, now we're going to continue doing that. Just slowly. I think there is something to... And I think it's because life is so... Like, I would say the main reason why I would forget something like that over time, there's so much going on in life that it just starts to... Like, usually when I start to build a habit and then it starts to fade away, the fading away part is just like... It's not like I don't want to do it anymore. It's just like you forget, other things happen. Blah, blah. That's the hard part. Yeah, in that moment to still be like, no, I'm still going to do this.
Yeah, it's unconscious.
Right.
That's why you need to keep reading about it, or
That's the thing.
Engaging in something that reminds you about it.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the, doing the film or putting yourself in those situations is all leading towards...
needs training.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it starts to get weak.
Exactly.
Like a good example is sometimes when I'm holding Oscar and he's like crying.
Yeah.
I can get a little bit like anxious about it, or like, oh, I really want him to stop crying.
Yeah.
And I can feel it affecting me.
Yeah.
And other times it's like, that's fine. Totally. It's almost like he's crying or he's not crying, and it doesn't, not that it doesn't matter, obviously there's a difference, but it's like it's not affecting me negatively more than it should be, and it's all just because of the way I'm thinking about it. And I can find myself holding him, he's crying, I'm feeling a little anxious about it, thinking, wait, why are you feeling anxious about it? And it totally going away. It's like reminding myself in the moment that
that's what I was trying to get at. It's not that the anxiety is going to go away.
No, but it does if you think about it the right way.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But the habit is almost to be aware in that moment that you're feeling anxious for no reason. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like when you're biking in the rain and you're upset and you start getting good at being like, no, it's fine. Yeah. It's totally fine, actually. I'm just conditioned to be like, oh, God, I gotta go. So
the habit is the thought that comes
The hard part is reminding yourself in that moment, like, it's not that bad.
Right. And that's the habit.
That's the habit, I think.
It's the thought that comes after the feeling.
Right. And then maybe at some point you think about it so much that maybe, just maybe it does become, instead of automatically feeling that way, you would
automatically feel good about it.
You'd be so Pavlovian, so set in that train of thought, you would just immediately go to, no, I'm fine.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
That'd be cool.
It's like being nervous for an event, like a performer going on stage.
Right.
You start to train yourself to think about what that means.
Right.
That the nerves are actually excitement, and I'm excited to meet the audience, and I'm excited to perform, and this is just what my body's doing to get me ready. Yeah. It's an exciting feeling.
Right.
That's the habit, is thinking that.
But that doesn't help. That's my point. You can know that. That's what I mean, the difference between mentally knowing and when you say you feel anxious and then you think about it and the anxiety goes away. I'll think about nerve and it will still be there because it's this thing. It's like adrenaline in your body. It doesn't just go away.
It doesn't just disappear.
You could go on a run real quick and it will go away. But if you're sitting in a room with people, it's like you're stuck with that a little bit. So then the thing almost becomes this like, I guess there's ways you could learn to...
But it will start going away if you've thought about it the right way. So say the stage performer is feeling signs of nervousness. Yeah. Feeling a little nauseous, hands are sweating, voice starts to feel like if I say something right now, it's going to come out like a little like this. Yeah. I'm a comedian and I'm about to go on stage. This can't happen. Yeah. Oh, wait, this always happens. This is just me being excited about finally being able to... perform what I've been practicing for months. Right. That then from that point is going to start to decrease so that when you do go on stage, it's not at an all-time peak right as you say your first word. It's already starting to kind of go down a little bit and you can release it as you perform the first part of your show. Whereas on the other hand, you go out and you're still anxious. It might lead to you like, I just can't go out. Right. I can't do it. I have to not do it.
But there's some people who have been like, I think like David Letterman and stuff, where they say, don't quote me on him, but people I've listened to have said they felt their entire career like they were going to throw up right before they went on stage. And that never changed.
No, I'm not.
But what they could figure out is that as soon as they got on stage, it seemed to be okay. Right. But that would never make it easier for the next. And these are people who, like, if let's say David Letterman said that. He's been doing that for every day, 5 days a week, for years. Yeah. And years. And then I'm like, okay, so the thing you trust in is that once you go on stage and the lights come on, you'll be fine. You've always been fine. You'll be fine. But for whatever reason, that doesn't subside. That dreadful feeling of like, what the hell am I doing? I'm not ready for this.
I guess what I'm saying then is that it doesn't change that feeling, but allows you to do it again the next time. Yeah. So it doesn't end up holding you back entirely.
Right.
And you're able to use that feeling that happens no matter what.
Right. Or you learn how to, I could also imagine like I've got a couple jokes lined up in my head because it's happened where I could say something and make the other person feel comfortable even though I look very nervous, right? You could just say something and address it. And that is a way of dealing with it as well, of just like not letting it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because also I've heard people there's these things called beta blockers that remove that anxiety. Like a lot of let's say like orchestra players who have to do auditions will take it before auditions because it gets rid of your sort of anxiety, nervousness, whatever, for an audition where it's like that's the worst time for that to come because it's going to affect the way you play. I was like, I don't think that's a good thing. Like obviously there's a reason for it, but it is interesting that you can take a pill and can get rid of it.
Well, I didn't feel anything like this when I would drink. I'd feel totally comfortable socially. Entirely.
I think a lot of people drink to be more comfortable socially. I think that's totally a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I've talked a few times about the fact that I used to do magic when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
I literally could not perform anything I had practiced.
Right.
Because my hands would shake so
Right.
badly. My hands would get sticky. The cards would stick to my hands. All the tiny little finesses that you've practiced, the feel of the card, the way that your hand, I just couldn't do it. I'd seize up.
Yeah.
And just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I can totally see how being an orchestra player and having to suddenly play when your throat's all like clenched up, you're about to have to
yeah. Or piano and your hands are shaking.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Or a singer who has to sing for an audition.
Yeah.
And that's when have you ever watched American Idol or Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent, whatever, where Simon Cowell will put his hand up in the middle of an audition.
Okay.
So the person starts singing.
Yeah.
Sing for 20 seconds, 10 seconds even. Then he goes and he looks behind himself, meaning turn off the music.
Okay.
I'm taking control of the situation right now. He's the only one who does it. No other judge has ever done it.
Yeah.
And he says I don't think this is working. Can we start over? Do you have another song? And I feel he says it's because they're nervous.
Right.
And it's almost like that act kind of snaps them out of it
a
little bit. And they're able to actually start over.
Right.
And it kind of makes sense to me, but it also seems a little bit counterintuitive. Now there's even more pressure. I was nervous. I came out on stage. I started singing. Everyone heard it in my voice.
Yeah.
I was asked to stop, and now I'm asked to start again.
Yeah.
But it's almost like then you've already fucked up. Now what else is there to have happen? The worst has happened.
Exactly.
Now I can sing properly.
Yeah.
It's almost like it goes away very quickly. And I can kind of put myself in that situation. You just talked about being on a date where you would at some point address the fact that you were nervous.
Yeah.
It's now the worst has happened. We've talked about how awkward I was and how my voice was shaking.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't want to have happen. I didn't want them to notice that I was nervous.
Right.
But now they do. So now I don't have to worry about it.
That's the thing, because what's also interesting is that when you say, someone goes on stage and they're nervous, I relate to that. So to me, it's not a bad thing.
No,
to me, it's a human thing. And I say, I can empathize with that
Yeah.
person. I like that person now. And then I guess this is an interesting question. Can you, because obviously some people are predisposed with just a low heart rate and are just very calm in those situations.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe there's something to the idea of just what's the worst that can
I could
happen?
never murder somebody. Or the thing of a lot of serial killers have very low heart rates. Right? It takes a lot to excite them. I was if I I would be fucking bouncing off the walls, so scared, so paranoid, so anxious.
Right.
I feel I would have to turn myself in because it would just be so much dread.
Right.
Right?
Well, yeah.
So there certainly is
I'm not arguing that there's not a lot of genetic stuff involved.
Right. It doesn't mean you can't change it,
but I'm trying to get at what I like the idea of there being something you can kind of do, something immediate that isn't super you just got to practice never endingly, and if you don't do it for long enough it'll disappear. Maybe there's something to this idea of accepting the worst, and whether you let the worst happen to kind of get yourself over it, or just accepting that it could, instead of being so scared of it happening and trying everything you can to avoid it. Because often the worst thing that can happen, it's something you've created, kind of. The idea of the girl noticing that you're nervous and hearing your voice shake.
Yeah.
Is that really bad? I mean,
See, that's what I'm getting
is.
at.
So it is, but maybe
it's not.
Accepting that that's your fear almost allows you to not be afraid of it so much a little bit.
Yeah.
I might...
I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it. That's the weird thing. That's where I'm saying it doesn't... Well, obviously, maybe you're saying I'm just not conscious of the fact that I'm afraid of it. But I'm saying I can come in with a clear mind and my body will react away. And I'll be what is
going on?
Right.
That's, yeah.
You know,
it's a bit
because
complex.
I think it's like hormones and emotions and things that are getting in the way of like my body's like, no, this is a fight or flight moment, and my mind's saying, no, it's not.
But
it's fine.
But it is all your mind.
Huh?
But it is all your mind.
Right, but maybe it's like the one is
Different
my
parts of your
neocortex, the other one's the reptilian, and the reptilian's like, go.
Yeah.
Go.
Fight, run. Run, fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Survive.
Yeah, survive. Have sex. Survive. Run. No. Survive. Yeah.
But like, you're a musician and you just truly accept the fact that the first thing that might come out of your mouth is like,
right.
And then it's like, if you can really think about that for long enough and be okay with the consequences, or like have planned out what you'll do if that happens.
Yeah.
Like you'll laugh and you'll make fun of yourself.
Yeah.
And you'll like walk off stage. I'm going to come back. Let's pretend like that didn't happen.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah,
go out
exactly.
again. It's like, it probably won't happen then. But if your focus is so much on, don't do this, or I hope this doesn't happen, or I hope everyone likes me,
no,
or I
exactly,
hope the thing works, or I hope it doesn't rain, or I hope, then you're thinking about the thing that you don't want to have happen, and you kind of like steer yourself that way a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine it is behavioral. I mean, it is, if you did it enough times, you will desensitize towards it. You must. If you went to a school and they forced you every day to hang out for lunch with a different student, right? I wonder how good people would get at like. I would imagine even the most nervous kid by the end of the year
would be better
at it, right? Not like
I think
Mr. Suave all of a sudden.
I can answer that question because like going to school in international schools where presenting to your class, like you have a project, you're doing a presentation, it's like a normal thing you do like once a week.
Right.
You still get nervous about it.
You
do it.
Yeah.
And then going to university where at some point I remember asking like one of my friends who just went to and did A-levels in the UK, and that isn't a big part of what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I may be wrong, but this, I mean, it seemed to be the case.
Yeah.
Everyone who did presentations at university, they're all kids from the UK, were so nervous.
Yeah.
More nervous than I've ever seen anyone ever be in a presentation at like FIS, for example.
Right.
Like hands are fucking like shaking, like they were holding the paper. And
right. Oh, it's so horrible.
And I'm like, what's going on? It's like giving me anxiety watching it. And it's just because they haven't practiced it. Because they haven't been exposed to it.
Right. It reminds me, there's a childhood video of me giving a presentation in first grade. And I'm so nervous. I'm so shy. I'm talking so quietly. Nobody can hear me. I was like talking to myself basically. Yeah. And then my mom's just in the background. It's like, Taylor, that's your aunt. This is my aunt, and this is my dog. That's your dog, Yoshi. I was like, yeah, I guess, by the end of, you do it enough, you get, not amazing. I'd still say I was nervous at the end of FISU. But you're a lot less nervous, I guess.
People talk about like pro athletes, for example, and say like, the experience coming into play now.
Right.
Like when it's like the last few minutes of a basketball game, or it's like the finals of a 100-meter sprint.
Yeah.
The experience triumphs over the new hot talent because they don't have experience with dealing with the pressure of the current moment that you can never have unless you've been through it.
Right.
I think it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
It's like you've done so many of these moments that you're able to deal with it better than the novice who might have a lot of talent but just hasn't been exposed to this kind of pressure yet.
Yeah. And that's another good point is it's only, that's funny too, because it's only the start of something that I find nervous.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that give me 30 minutes and I'll be fine. It's just the initial kind of start of something where it's going to be awkward or like, I got to start this. But usually, even in a presentation, it goes tough away. Starting.
Yeah, it goes away.
But once you're on slide 5,
it's
like totally gone.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
then like something like Boris and Johan.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say you were pretty anxious and nervous throughout the whole thing, kind of on a day-to-day basis? But I guess then once the day
No, but that was
starts-
totally different emotions.
Okay.
That's more like, I don't fucking know what that was.
I guess every day we were faced with a new thing that was like, oh, I wonder if this person will show up. I wonder if this location is actually what I think it would be. I wonder
Yeah, it
if
was
this
more
scene will work.
stress. You know, stress is like...
But then like once you're in it is what I'm saying, even on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
you might
but
wake
you're
up
thinking
feeling
about the next
anxious.
thing, you know?
Then once you're there, it's like, oh, okay, it is working. Or now I can at least just deal with it and I don't have to worry about if anymore. It's like, it's current.
Oh, yeah.
And then it kind of goes away until you start thinking about the next thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, even starting a scene can be very like, oh, fuck. You know, I think about the Uber driver, and it's like, well, this is fucking weird. Are we going to fit in this car? Is this going to work? Where are we going? How is this going to... And then once you're in the middle of it, you're not even thinking about that.
Yeah, you're not nervous about it.
No.
You're just dealing with the issues that are coming up.
Yeah, I'm not that nervous in those situations.
No, it's more before, though. I'm not saying you. I'm saying in general.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It is before, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same, even with something as small as, like, working on your film, and I knew I was going to meet Scott that night.
Right.
You know, I know in my head, give it a day, and we'll be totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that first interaction that I find so terrifying.
Mm.
No idea who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you assume the worst, and then it's like, oh, it's fine. You know, and some people just, yeah.
Let's
cut it off there.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. See you next week on Burning Boat Business.